OPM does about 90%, I don't know if you're aware of that, but we do about 90% of the federal investigations. We don't do, for example, things like Secret Service or FBI, but 90% of the investigations we do. So we have, and you might want to write this down, we have a group called Federal Investigative Services, FIS. If you go to the OPM website and you type in www.opm.gov/ and I want to say it's investigate. That'll take you to the section of the site where it answers a lot of those types of questions. You may be able to get a hold of someone that you can actually speak to who can answer that in a more accurate way, okay? If you don't see it with the website I gave you, just go to the section on the OPM website that talks about investigations or federal services investigations, because it's a legitimate question, but I don't want to mislead you on that. Everything is case by case. Okay, so at this time, as I said, you have a lot of nice questions. I know some of you have more. Please feel free to stop by and see me a little bit later. Thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate it. I know it's a lot. I'll just leave you with this. You know, take your time to do the search. Make sure that you're doing everything step by step. And above all, do not get discouraged. I know some of you have been looking for quite some time. Keep at it. They're great jobs. It's great public service. And we need you. So thank you very much for your attention. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Lisa of the Peace Corps. One thing I did forget to mention, if you haven't had a chance, up front at the tables, you have this flyer on USA Jobs and also a nice handout about writing effective resumes. Feel free to avail yourselves of those and they can help you out.
I'll just give a brief introduction. Hi everyone, my name is Lisa. Thank you to Congressman Rangel and City College for having me. This is my daughter. She's coming soon, but not today, so don't worry. I'm here to talk about Peace Corps. And I have done Peace Corps. I now work for the federal government. And I want to say, first of all, before we watch a brief video about Peace Corps, that a lot of people think of Peace Corps as something that you do that's very nice overseas to help people. It definitely is that, but it's also a lot more than that. This is a way to enhance your career and launch your career and find a great job. So I think there's some misconceptions that Peace Corps is just a way to volunteer. You give up your life for 2 years, you move away, and then you come back and hopefully start your life again. But Peace Corps is really a way to get a better career, to start a career, to enhance a career, and to get a really great job when you get back. So if you're sitting there and you have kids and you're like, I cannot do Peace Corps, I cannot move to Mozambique for 2 years right now in my life, keep that in mind for other people that you know, for your nieces, your nephew, your cousins, your sister, your brother. This is something that you can do that will help you find a job. It makes sense for us to be at career fairs because Peace Corps is something that looks really good on your resume and will give you a skill set that not a lot of Americans have. It will also help you get a job in the federal government. So there are lots of benefits to Peace Corps that I think sometimes get overlooked when you hear about it and you see pictures of people helping people in farms and things like this. It is a really wonderful thing to do that helps people, but it's also of great benefit to the people who are doing the service. So we're just going to watch a little video and then I'll speak very briefly about my own experience and then I'll open it up for questions. So thanks for having me.
My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man.
Peace Corps represents some, if not all, of the best virtues in this society. It stands for everything that America has ever stood for. It stands for everything we believe in and hope to achieve in the world.
From an early age, I had an interest in the wider world beyond the boundaries of the United States. I think there were a number of my generation who were particularly inspired by President Kennedy and his call to join the Peace Corps.
How many of you who are going to be doctors are willing to spend your your days in Ghana, technicians or engineers? How many of you are willing to work in the foreign service and spend your lives traveling around the world?
Well, when we arrived, Kennedy was revered, and the United States was considered, their closest ally. There was this sense of partnership.
I was so excited. There were 130 people in my group, and we landed in Ghana on a bright and sunny spring day. There were people to welcome us. There was something in the air that was so different from where I came from.
It felt very nice to be part of a FIRST program. And we didn't have texting, we didn't have electricity, we didn't have phones, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have computers, and you did not get a chance to go home in 2 years. So that was kind of exciting, actually.
While times have changed, the agency's mission to promote world peace and friendship has not. The three goals of the Peace Corps are as relevant today as they were in 1961. Goal 1, to help people of interested countries in meeting their need for trained men and women. Goal 2, to help promote a better understanding of Americans on the part of the peoples served. And of course, our third goal, to help promote a better understanding of other peoples on the part of Americans.
They share the lives of these people, and they share with them skills, knowledge. They learn their language, they live with them, and this is why Peace Corps is unique.
Peace Corps is a very dynamic organization, one that promotes friendship, yet at the same time it is about helping people to help themselves.
Understanding is the peace and Peace Corps, because what we're here to do is to make this exchange. Taking that time out to understand who a person is or what that person wants to become, but you're building relationships.
We are not only teaching people at the primary level, but we are empowering people with the skills for sustainability.
Peace Corps sends volunteers into host communities to build the bridges of understanding that will foster friendship, that will foster peace, and build the kind of future that we all strive for. We are not just witnesses to a country's development, we are participants. We have taught English to thousands of children and teachers. We have worked alongside farmers to improve crops. We have taught computer technology powered by solar panels in rural villages. And we have delivered HIV/AIDS prevention messages to thousands of young adults. We are on the ground, changing lives and changing history.
Be it working in government or any other walk in life, I think it informs your public service. I think Peace Corps has this impact on you that you carry with you the rest of your life.
The thing that's so exciting to me about Peace Corps really is the transformation that takes place both in the lives of the volunteers but also in the lives of the communities. Maybe they're nurses who devoted their lives to serving their community because they were touched by Peace Corps volunteer who encouraged them to go on to nursing school. Or maybe it was a family who were helped by a volunteer who taught them how to make a garden, and that garden enabled their children to grow up healthy and their kids were able to be educated. I mean, those stories I think are the things that JFK would be most proud of.
I hope this spirit will grow, that hundreds of others of young Americans and older Americans will go overseas to show our best side, to show how much we desire to live at peace. There can be no greater service to our country and no source of pride more real than to be a member of the Peace Corps of the United States.
Like I said before, I served in the Peace Corps. I served in the country of Burkina Faso, which is in West Africa, right north of Ghana. And it was an experience that definitely changed my life, both personally and also professionally. Before I left for Peace Corps, I had studied journalism in college, and I was excited about coming back from Peace Corps and maybe learning a new language while I was over there, and then getting a job at a newspaper and starting my career in journalism. But that definitely did not happen after my Peace Corps experience, just because I learned a new skill set, and I learned things about myself professionally that I didn't know before Peace Corps, and so sort of changed the course of my career. I served in 2002 to 2004. So when I came back, I got my graduate school degree for free because of my Peace Corps experience from Columbia University. So that was a trajectory of my life I never thought I would end up doing. So didn't know that you could get a graduate school degree for free because of Peace Corps service and that kind of a thing, but those benefits do exist. So it's a way to give back to the world, true, but it's also a way to build a skill set and gain things for your career and your life that will benefit you and the rest of your family. So just some logistics about Peace Corps that wasn't covered in the video. So these are the people who volunteer in Peace Corps. There's no age limit. You have to be at least 18. Most of our programs do require a bachelor's degree. Okay, but the oldest volunteer is currently 83, serving in Morocco. So this is something you can think about later on in your life. It's something you can think about before you have a family. But if you do have dependents, then you can't do Peace Corps. So but that's why I said that before. If you're in a situation where you have to be in New York City right now in your life, it's something to keep in mind for later, and also something to keep in mind for your family and friends who might be graduating from college or are looking ways to start their career or get a job or enhance their career. These are the sectors that volunteers serve in. I myself was a health volunteer, and I qualified for that program because of some volunteer work I had done during college at an HIV/AIDS clinic. This was over the course of the 3 years that I volunteered at the clinic, maybe 3 hours a week doing that was enough to qualify me to become a health volunteer. So even though I was a journalism major and that had nothing to do with helping with public health, Peace Corps said, well, this experience is good enough, we'll train you, and you can be a health volunteer. So there is quite a bit of training that takes place in Peace Corps so that you feel like you're ready to start your job when you get there. That's why Peace Corps is 27 months, because it's 3 months of training when you first arrive and then 2 years of service. These are the places where we serve. The #1 question I always get is, do you get to choose where you want to go? And the answer is not really. If you have a language like Spanish or French, sometimes that will determine your placement, but not always. We serve in over 70 countries. And we place you based on your skill set. So if you have a degree or a certain type of degree that we need at that time, or a language, or some volunteer experience, then we'll use that to put you in an appropriate placement. The countries, we only go to places where we're invited. So the countries who've invited Peace Corps volunteers to come serve have very specific requests about what kind of volunteers they would like. You know, I want someone with a degree in public health who has at least 2 years experience with at-risk youth. So if you submit an application to become a Peace Corps volunteer and you have that on your resume, we're going to send you there, even if you wanted to go someplace else. So it's best to think about it as an adventure and thinking about it as a way just to see some part of the world that you probably would never see otherwise. The safety and security is the #1 priority of Peace Corps. In the video, the woman said, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have laptops, etc. That's really changed. Over 90% of Peace Corps volunteers now have a cell phone. So it's easy for people from the States to contact Peace Corps volunteers, and it's very easy for Peace Corps volunteers to contact people they need to contact in their country, but then also people back home. So it's really changed. As far as the isolation, when I was a Peace Corps volunteer, I lived in a rural village. I had to ride my bike 10 kilometers to call my mom. But now those volunteers in Burkina Faso in that same location have cell phone service. So things are quite a bit different now. And Peace Corps uses those cell phones that are paid for by Peace Corps and issued to you by Peace Corps to help volunteers remain safe and secure. These are just some of the benefits that you receive during your service. Your student loans can be deferred. If you have federal loans upon your return, you can get some of them canceled. So I got 30% of the federal loans from my undergraduate degree canceled, as well as my graduate school degree for free because of Peace Corps. You receive an opportunity to travel, obviously. We pay for you to get to the country where you're serving and for you to get home. So you don't have to buy your plane ticket. Some of these plane tickets are, of course, in the thousands of dollars to remote locations like Burkina Faso. And then you receive a stipend or a living allowance. How much you receive depends on where you are. In Burkina Faso, I received about $5 a month, but I was serving in a country where I was serving in a community that people didn't even have currency. So it was sort of a non-issue that I was even receiving a stipend, but I used it to buy food to give to my host family who fed me every day. But in places like China, some volunteers receive, $200, $250 a month. You receive the same amount of money that someone else doing your job in that country would receive. So if you're a teacher in China, you get paid just like the other teachers in China are getting paid. And then you get 2 days of vacation a month, which you can save up. Most Peace Corps volunteers do go home at least once, back to the States, or else they use those vacation days to travel around the country where they're serving. And then the training that you receive, you become fluent in another language. Peace Corps makes sure that you become fluent in that language, so that's definitely something you can put on your resume when you get back. When I got back, I put that I was fluent in Jula, because that's the language that I learned there. And you might think to yourself, oh, how is that going to help you? Well, it helps me stand out from the crowd. I've gotten interviews from employers just because they had never heard of that language, they'd never heard of Burkina Faso, and they were fascinated. And I've had entire job interviews where we just talked about my Peace Corps experience. And I left thinking, why did they want to bring me in and talk to me about my Peace Corps experience? But it helps you stand out from the crowd, and it makes you unique. And I can use Jula here. Fortunately, in New York City, there's a large West African community here, so I still use it today. And then you receive complete medical and dental treatment while you're care while you're there. The care that you receive is by American doctors and nurses who are there only to care for Peace Corps volunteers. So you basically have a direct line to a doctor for 2 years, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's probably the best health care I'll ever have in my life. They were really great. This is the only international program that will allow you to go overseas for no money. It's completely paid for by the US government. A lot of other similar types of agencies require you to pay for this experience. So Peace Corps is also unique in that way. And then when you get back, these are just some of the benefits as well. You receive a readjustment allowance. Peace Corps will help you find a job. They helped me write my resume. They still help me write my resume today. This is something you can tap into for the rest of your life as a returned Peace Corps volunteer. People who will tell you how to talk about your experience to an employer that will make sense to your employer, because these are places that many people have never been and experiences that many people have never had. So it's important to be able to translate that into a way that makes sense to them, right? I learned the skill of dealing with people who had very different cultural ideas about healthcare. That's something that makes sense to Americans, right? In reality, what that looked like was, I have some crazy stories, but I'm not going to go into the crazy stories during an interview. But they teach you how to talk about your Peace Corps experience that will help you translate it. And then you get this non-competitive eligibility, which he spoke about a little bit. Basically, a fancy way of saying it's easier for you to get some federal jobs. And you have that for a year upon your return. And over 200,000 people have done Peace Corps. It's sort of like a club. So when you meet someone who has also done Peace Corps, there's an instant bond between you. And they network together, and they help each other. I can call any returned Peace Corps volunteer and say, I'm traveling through, can I sleep on your couch? 95% chance they will say yes. So it's a little bit like a club, a network of people who are doing amazing things. Peace Corps volunteers are notoriously motivated and idealistic. It's a great combination, right? Because they're doers, but they're also very optimistic. This is a great group of people to have behind you when you're doing a job search, or when you're starting a new job, or in any kind of transition in your life. So these people have great jobs in politics, in medicine, in law, in the Foreign Service, in other community organizations, and they'll help you get a job upon your return. These are some of the graduate school benefits that I was talking about earlier. I won't go into the specifics of those programs, but just to say that there are 2 of them. You can combine your Peace Corps service with your graduate school degree, or you can do Peace Corps and then come back and get your graduate degree for either a reduced cost or a full ride. The application process is long, about 9 to 12 months. So this is something that a lot of people, I work with a lot of students from City College, and they'll start at the beginning of their senior year. And it's not the only egg in their basket. They're submitting a Peace Corps application, but they're also, applying to AmeriCorps or applying to other jobs in the private sector. They know it's a long process, so they're going into it with an open mind, like I'm going to submit my application and see where it goes from there. So I definitely recommend that. It is a really long process. So just be mindful of it and apply in advance if you think that within the next year or 18